The moment I saw them together, something inside me died. I was standing there in the doorway of our bedroom clutching a grocery bag with the ice cream my husband Mark had specifically requested. "Can you grab that mint chocolate chip I love?" He'd texted an hour earlier. "Meeting ran late. Be home soon." Except his meeting wasn't running late. His meeting was naked in our bed with my sister Rachel. I should have screamed, should have thrown something, should have made a scene that the neighbors would gossip about for years, but I didn't. Instead, I quietly backed away before they noticed me, placed the ice cream in the freezer, and drove to the park where Mark had proposed to me 6 years earlier. What's wrong with me that my first instinct was to hide my pain rather than expose their betrayal? Subscribe to hear more stories like this and support the channel. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for what happens next. Let me back up a bit. I'm Ellie, 34, elementary school teacher, married to Mark for 6 years. Rachel was my only sister, 2 years younger. We were close growing up, the kind of sisters who shared clothes and secrets and finished each other's sentences. Our parents died in a car accident when I was 22, which left us with only each other as family. Sisters before misters, we used to say. What a fucking joke that turned out to be. Mark and I met at a friend's barbecue. He was charming, successful, the kind of guy who remembered everyone's name and made them feel important. Real estate developer with that perfect combination of ambition and warmth. When he proposed, Rachel helped him plan everything: the location, the photographer hiding in the bushes, even the exact song playing from a portable speaker. "He asked for my help," she told me later, beaming. "Said he needed the perspective of someone who knows you better than anyone." Now I wonder if that's when it started. If she looked at him that day and thought, "I want what my sister has." Or maybe it was at our wedding, when she was my maid of honor, standing beside me in that pale blue dress she complained made her look washed out. Maybe it started last Christmas, when Mark complimented her new haircut a bit too enthusiastically. Or maybe I'm just torturing myself, rewriting history, looking for signs I should have seen. I sat on that park bench for 3 hours, watching families pack up picnic baskets and couples walk hand in hand as the sun set. My phone buzzed with texts from Mark. "Where are you? Did you get the ice cream? Everything okay?" Each message was like a knife. The casual normality of it, the audacity of his concern. I typed and deleted a dozen responses before settling on, "Running some errands. Be home later." That's when I made my decision. I wouldn't confront them. Not yet. I needed time to think, to plan. Because one thing was crystal clear as I sat there watching darkness fall over the park. I would not be the one left broken and alone while they rode off into the sunset. No, if my life was going to burn down, I'd be the one holding the match. When I got home that night, they were both gone. Rachel's car no longer in our driveway. Mark was in the kitchen making pasta, acting perfectly normal. "Hey, where'd you disappear to?" he asked, leaning in to kiss me like he hadn't had his tongue down my sister's throat hours earlier. I let him kiss me and smiled. "Just needed some air. Work stuff." I'm not normally a good liar, but something had shifted inside me, like a switch had been flipped. "You seem off. Everything okay?" He had the nerve to look concerned. "Headache," I said, rubbing my temples. "Think I'll take a shower and go to bed early?" In the shower, I let the water run over me until it went cold, scrubbing every inch of my skin raw. Then I carefully examined our bedroom, the same bedroom where I'd seen them. The sheets had been changed, the windows open to air the room out, but there, caught between the dresser and the wall, was one of Rachel's earrings. a small gold hoop I'd helped her pick out for her 30th birthday. I placed it in my jewelry box and went to sleep beside my husband, keeping to the edge of the mattress, my back to him like a wall. The thing about betrayal is that once you know it's there, you start seeing evidence everywhere. The way Mark's phone would ping and he'd smile before turning it face down. How Rachel suddenly had work commitments when we had our weekly sister lunch, but could magically appear for dinner if Mark suggested it. The inside jokes they seemed to share. The way they'd both check their watches at family gatherings, making excuses to leave early. Separately, but always within 15 minutes of each other. God, they weren't even being careful. Or maybe they were. And I was just too trusting, too blind, too stupid to notice until I literally walked in on them. For 3 weeks, I watched and gathered evidence. Screenshots of text messages when Mark left his phone unlocked, hotel receipts in his jacket pocket, a credit card statement with charges from a jewelry store on a day he'd told me he was at a construction site. Rachel's perfume lingering in our car. Each piece of evidence was like a piece of my heart breaking off, but also like armor I was building around myself. Each night, I'd lie awake next to him, planning. The turning point came when I overheard them on the phone. I'd come home early, another thing I'd started doing randomly, and heard Mark in his home office, door slightly ajar. "I can't keep doing this," he was saying, voice low. "She's going to find out. No, that's not fair to her. She deserves better." A pause. "Rachel, please. You know I love you, but this is her home too." "Yes, of course. I mean it." I stood there, hand pressed against my mouth to keep from making a sound, as my husband and sister discussed the logistics of destroying my life. "After the Thompson deal closes next month," Mark was saying, "I'll have enough to—" He stopped abruptly, and I realized he was about to walk out. I silently moved to the kitchen and started noisily unloading groceries I hadn't bought. The Thompson deal. The massive commercial development project Mark had been working on for almost a year. The one that would set us up for life, as he'd said countless times. As I arranged vegetables in the refrigerator, my mind was racing. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than pain. I felt purpose. Have you ever noticed how people tell you everything when they think you're not really listening? Over the next 2 months, I became the perfect, oblivious wife. I asked Mark about his work with genuine seeming interest. I invited Rachel over more often. I acted slightly distracted, as if I had my own life and concerns that kept me from noticing what was happening right under my nose. And they talked. Oh, how they talked. Mark explained the Thompson deal in detail, the investors, the pending permits, the commission structure. Rachel mentioned the review board she sat on at the hospital where she worked as an administrator, the one that would be considering promotions next quarter. Both of them mentioned mutual friends, colleagues, bosses. I recorded every detail in a journal I kept locked in my classroom desk at school. Meanwhile, I was making moves of my own. I spoke with a divorce attorney who advised me to document everything and secure my finances. I opened a separate bank account. I researched real estate laws and ethics violations. I befriended the wife of Mark's boss under the pretense of organizing a surprise party. And I set up cameras, small, discreet ones in our living room, kitchen, and yes, bedroom. Not illegal. It was my house, too. Just insurance. The hardest part was acting normal around Rachel, meeting her for lunch and listening to her talk about some fictional guy at work she was seeing, watching her hold my hand and say, "You and Mark seem distant lately. Everything okay?" The audacity nearly took my breath away. Just busy, I'd say, squeezing her hand. You know how it is. You can tell me anything, she'd insist, eyes wide with fake concern. I'm always here for you, sis. In those moments, I felt like I was floating outside my body, watching this bizarre theater play out. My sister, wearing the necklace my husband had bought her, telling me she'd always be there for me while actively planning to destroy my life. I'd smile and change the subject, holding the rage inside like a hot coal. About 3 months after I discovered their affair, I knew I had everything I needed. The Thompson deal was closing in a week. Mark had been coming home later and later, working on final details. Rachel had suddenly taken a week of vacation time. It was time. I sent out invitations for a dinner party at our home. Celebrating new beginnings, the text message said. Our parents, both sets, Rachel, Mark's boss, and his wife, Rachel's hospital supervisor, and a few close friends, the kind who'd be most horrified by what I was about to reveal. Mark seemed confused when I told him about it. A party? Now? I'm swamped with the Thompson closing. That's exactly why, I said, touching his cheek. You've worked so hard. I want to celebrate you before it's official. Plus, everyone's been saying we haven't entertained in ages. He bought it because he wanted to, because it fit the narrative of me as the supportive, clueless wife. Rachel was harder. A dinner party? This weekend? I don't know if I can make it. Please, I said, letting my voice break a little. I feel like we've barely seen each other lately. I miss you. The guilt worked. Of course I'll be there, she said quickly. I wouldn't miss it. The day of the dinner party, I was eerily calm. I'd spent the morning at the bank, transferring my portion of our savings, exactly half, no more, to my new account. I'd packed a suitcase that was now in the trunk of my car, parked 2 blocks away. I'd mailed copies of certain documents to Mark's boss, to the real estate licensing board, and to Rachel's hospital ethics committee, all timed to arrive the following Monday. I prepared a beautiful meal, Mark's favorite roast beef, Rachel's favorite cheesecake for dessert. I set the dining room table with our wedding china and crystal glasses. I wore the blue dress Mark had always loved, did my makeup perfectly, and put on the earrings that matched the one I'd found in our bedroom, the pair I'd given Rachel for her birthday. Just before guests arrived, I connected my laptop to our TV and made sure the video files were ready. Then I welcomed everyone with a warm smile and champagne. Dinner was a performance. I laughed at the right moments, topped off wine glasses, and told charming stories about Mark's dedication to the Thompson project. I asked Rachel about her hospital work, watching her squirm slightly when her supervisor praised her commitment. As dessert was being served, I stood and tapped my glass with a spoon. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight, I said, smiling around the table. It means so much to have all the people we care about in one room. Mark was beaming, probably thinking this was all for him. Rachel was picking at her cheesecake, avoiding eye contact. Before we continue celebrating, I said, I wanted to share something special I've been working on. I picked up the remote control and clicked play. The video began with a simple slide. A love story. Then cut to footage from our bedroom, the date stamp clearly visible in the corner. Mark and Rachel entering the room, kissing, undressing each other, their voices crystal clear. What about Ellie? Rachel was asking. Don't worry about her, Mark replied. She doesn't suspect a thing. After the Thompson deal closes, we'll tell her together. I watched the faces around the table transform. Shock, disgust, horror. Mark's boss turned ashen. Rachel's supervisor put down her fork with a clatter. Our friends froze mid-bite. Mark lunged for the remote. "Ellie, what the hell? Turn that off!" I stepped back out of his reach. "But there's more," I said calmly. "This next part is really interesting." The video changed to Mark in his office, on the phone, clearly discussing kickbacks on the Thompson deal. Then to Rachel accessing confidential hospital records she had no business looking at. Each clip short, devastating. Each one carefully selected to cause maximum professional damage. Rachel was sobbing now. "Ellie, please. We can explain." "Oh, I think the videos explain everything quite clearly," I said, my voice steady despite the earthquake happening inside me. Mark's been falsifying permit documents and taking kickbacks, and Rachel's been accessing private medical information illegally. Not to mention you've both been fucking each other in my bed for at least 6 months. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. I walked over to the dining table and placed my house key and wedding ring in the center. "I've transferred my half of our assets to a separate account," I said to Mark. "The divorce papers will be delivered Monday. I've also submitted evidence of your ethical violations to the licensing board." I turned to Rachel. "And yours to the hospital ethics committee." Mark's face had gone from red to white. "You can't do this. You'll ruin everything." "You mean the way you ruined everything?" I asked, finally allowing some emotion to crack through. "You were planning to leave me next week, after the Thompson money came through. In the meantime, you've been sleeping with my sister in our home." I looked around the table at the shocked faces. "I'm sorry you all had to find out this way, but I thought you deserved to know the kind of people you've been trusting, in your businesses, in your hospitals, in your lives." Rachel stood up, mascara streaking down her face. "Ellie, I'm so sorry. I never meant to—" I held up my hand. "Save it. You're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught." I picked up my purse and walked to the door, then turned back one last time. "You can keep the house, Mark. You'll need somewhere to live after they revoke your license. And Rachel, you might want to start looking for a new job, maybe a new state." I looked between them. "You can have each other. That seems like punishment enough." And then I walked out, closing the door softly behind me. That was 3 years ago. I moved to a different city, found a new teaching position, started over. Some days are still hard. Betrayal leaves scars that never fully heal. But I'm building a life I never could have imagined back then. Mark and Rachel? Last I heard, the Thompson deal collapsed when the ethical violations came to light. Mark lost his license and had to sell the house to pay legal fees. Rachel was fired and struggled to find work in healthcare again. They tried to make it work for a while, living in her small apartment, but there's something about relationships built on betrayal. They rarely survive once the excitement of sneaking around is gone. Sometimes people ask if I regret how I handled things, if the public humiliation was too much, if I could have just confronted them privately and walked away. Maybe. But here's what I know. For months, they made me doubt myself, made me feel crazy for suspecting something was wrong, made me the unwitting fool in their love story. So yes, I chose the nuclear option. I chose to burn it all down, and from those ashes, I built something new, something that's mine alone. They took 3 years of my life with their lies. I took their careers, their reputations, and eventually each other. Was it petty? Perhaps. Was it worth it? I'll let you decide. If you've ever been betrayed by the people closest to you, share your story in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories that show the complicated truth about love, loyalty, and the choices we make when pushed to our breaking point. So yes, I chose the nuclear option. I chose to burn it all down, and from those ashes, I built something new, something that's mine alone. They took 3 years of my life with their lies. I took their careers, their reputations, and eventually each other. Was it petty? Perhaps. Was it worth